I won a colouring competition once because I coloured it in just with like highlighter and texture really badly with my left hand. I was 22 and I stuck it up like I was a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old. And the next day I came in, they're like, oh yeah, we've picked our winners, and mine had won. And I was like, okay, that one can't win. And they're like, why not? I went, that was me. I did it last night. I was bored.
Hi folks, it's Sean. Just a little heads up on today's episode. It's a little bit cheeky in places, so you might not want to Google things that we discuss at work. But otherwise, enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Good for a Change. This is a podcast where we aim to combat the awful everyday news you hear with stories that will make you smile. Everyone likes to smile. Do you like to smile, Hollie?
Yeah.
That was aggressive. You're being aggressive in your yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's better. I'm Jarrod, and with me being very aggressive is Hollie.
Hello, Hollie.
And also with me is Sean.
Who's never aggressive.
Who's never aggressive. If anything, you're passive aggressive.
Definitely.
I mean, even you saying definitely was passive aggressive.
Possibly.
It's fine. It's fine. All right, this is episode 11
Of season
of
2?
season 2. My goodness.
It's going well.
That was a high-pitched noise you made then.
It's Halloweeny. Ooh.
We are in the spooky month.
We are in the spooky month.
Spooky season, everybody.
Spooky. I'm terrified right now.
Are you?
Just of
Wow.
life in general.
Well, then we should probably tell some good news to make you feel less terrified.
Yeah, so make me less terrified, Sean. Tell me a good news story.
Well, I've got one that definitely is nowhere near the terrifying front. This one, if anything, will definitely make you smile.
Oh, big call, big call.
That's lucky.
Yeah. Well, you know. My story takes place in Belgium, where a local man has come under fire, actually, for something he's got decorating his house, although it's not Halloween related. So Lewis, who is an 85-year-old man in the town of, I think it's Turnhout, I don't know 100% how you pronounce that name, but he was shocked to find the other day some local, council people coming around his road, doing an inspection, making sure everything was okay in the community, and he received sort of like a bit of a cease and desist over one of his ornaments in his yard.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You see, in his yard, he has a garden gnome named Betty. And unfortunately, these council members think Betty is a little inappropriate.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Betty is sort of standing topless in his front yard.
Oh, my gosh.
And when I first read this article, I thought, how can you be offended by, a small garden gnome that's topless in the front yard? You know, I don't think that's really an offensive
Yeah, people have,
thing.
the Venus de Milo
Yeah,
statues,
exactly.
don't they?
And it is sort of standing like the Venus de Milo.
Yeah.
But then I did look at a picture attached to a news article, and this is possibly for the first time we maybe can't share a visual element of our podcast on the Instagram.
I'm sure you can blur it and censor it.
We'll work something out. But Betty is definitely topless, standing in the garden, and Betty is also gigantic. She's if you can imagine a man crouching down next to the statue of Betty, she's sort of as tall as from his feet to his chin.
Would you say 3 feet?
Maybe 2 foot, definitely. I think 2 foot, so I don't know actually feet.
2 foot is
No, that's a foot.
that
so
big.
Oh no, maybe slightly larger. 2.5 feet, maybe.
2.5
Right,
Yeah.
not only have we become a really visual podcast, now you two are actually measuring things.
In Imperial.
Going, do you mean this big? Yeah, no, I think I mean this big.
Nothing more accessible than Imperial.
They can't. No one can see you except for me.
But Betty is quite a large garden gnome. And these councillors have basically said, or these representatives of the council have basically said, you need to put Betty in some clothing if you want to keep Betty in the front of your yard. And
Nah, that's censorship. I don't agree.
yeah, and Lewis has said
Nah.
Betty's not built to be dressed. Like, you can't really put a t-shirt on her because one of her arms is sort of like holding her hip. So you can't really put a t-shirt onto her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would involve some serious draping.
Yes.
No, so you're going to have to custom make something.
Yes. He's like, I'm willing to sort of see where this goes because I think it's a bit ridiculous that they've come here and they've said it's inappropriate because no one else is complaining, he said. None of the neighbours have complained. It's just these people have come along.
Can I see Betty?
Yes, you can see Betty. Hold on. Let me find you a picture of
I
Betty.
just think if it was Bill and Ben,
And I'll maybe explain to people what I can see.
if it was Bill and Ben weren't wearing shirts and they were wearing like beach shorts, people would be like, that's chill, whatever. So why should Betty have to wear a shirt?
Oh, here she is. She's quite large in this picture.
Oh yeah, she's at least 2 to 2.5 foot tall.
Here you go, Jarrod. That's Betty.
Betty is definitely topless.
Yeah.
Betty is a big Betty. And I just want to say the guy who is holding Betty looks like the type of guy who'd have a topless gnome in his front yard.
He looks like Andy Warhol.
He looks like a Muppet come to life.
My favourite thing is that, you know, like, they're claiming it's inappropriate, but Betty is in no way... I wouldn't say Betty is, like, conventionally sexy. You know, it's
She's
not
a
like...
gnome.
She's a gnome. And it's definitely a gnome that's been carved or sculpted in, like, it's a cheeky fashion.
Oh, absolutely.
But she definitely looks more like a middle-aged gnome. You know, she's not some, like, young, sexy gnome. She's definitely, like, middle-aged gnome.
Things have taken a turn.
I'm getting very
things have
uncomfortable.
really taken a turn.
I'm uncomfortable. I feel weird.
I
feel
feel
icky.
like lots of gnomes are like...
I love a cheeky gnome.
Yeah, they're like a
They're
bit like,
cheeky.
ooh.
There's, like, the gnomes that are mooning. We've all
Yeah.
seen the gnomes that
Yeah.
have their little
They sell
bottoms
as
out.
Asda, don't they?
Yeah.
At Asda.
And actually, on those lines, the garden centre that's been selling these gnomes have, like, sold out of all the, like, 2.5 foot, 3 foot sized giant Betty gnomes. And they have a male version as well who has his little dangler out. But I haven't seen pictures of that one, so I'm not here to judge.
Yes, I'm very uncomfortable.
And the small ones are, like, flying off the shelf as well because they have them, like, normal garden gnome size and they're flying off the shelf as well. So this local garden centre guy, he's come out in the media and he's been like, look, it's going gangbusters for me. Everyone wants one of these gnomes. And Betty has now made it into a lot of major publications around the world. She's making news for her garden.
Do you think it was just like one person, like one buzzkill who complained?
Oh, always. It's always one buzzkill.
Well, Lewis has basically said he's not even sure if someone has complained. It's more these local people, which are just, I think they're just civilians. They're not necessarily like police officers or anything, have just walked down the
Neighbourhood
street.
watch.
Yeah, and had a look at them and been like, that's inappropriate, and sort of put it through the council to say he has to take it away.
You know what gnomes I really like? They're like a zombie coming out of the garden gnomes.
Oh, that's
They're
nice.
always fun.
Nice.
But I saw this week at work, I was out doing a delivery and I went to a lady's house and as soon as I got there, I was like, oh my god, this lady is the one. This lady and I are going to be married because she had all these like gorgeous busts of the Sesame Street characters.
No way.
In her front yard, she had this really like intricate looking Cookie Monster and Big Bird. And I was like, oh my god, this woman's the one. And I knocked on her door, and she opened it, and she was about 85.
Still the one.
And yeah, so we're together now. Me and
I'm a bridesmaid.
me and Gloria, we're together now. No, it was one of those moments where I'm like, no, I was kind of hoping you were going to be some attractive 25-year-old, and we were going to be married forever. But no.
Do you know they're based on, like, I think the original garden gnome was an actual person? And it was literally a person that was paid by some, like, rich property owner to sit in a little hut and, like, bring, like, this, like, oldie man charm to this little nook of the garden. So that's where, like, the garden gnome origin starts.
Funny.
Unfortunately, he was topless, and people did complain.
And that ended it, so they
Had to
made
be
little concrete
removed.
ones instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, while we're talking about, some maybe not safe for work things, I feel like I'm going to have to put a quick disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. But I'd like to tell you about the Lincolnshire Wildlife Park, which has had to separate 5 newly adopted African grey parrots and remove them from public view because they've all been swearing at each other.
I've seen this, and they're encouraging each other.
Right, so yes, 2 of them had gained the ability to swear from their previous owners and had shared that ability with their new friends. Now, I will keep all my language safe for work as I tell
Thank
the
you.
story.
Thank you.
But keepers were told to go F themselves.
Oh no.
Have been called pretty much every name under the sun, including, overweight, genitalia, I should say.
Goodness.
Yeah, some really things I won't repeat. Loudly and often.
Oh my gosh.
While the team think it is hilarious, they have concerns that the other 250 African parrots in the park might learn the skill,
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
which is why they've had to separate them. Because if 250 parrots start swearing, that effectively means shutting down the park for a while.
Wow.
Because they can't have kids walking around and, African grey parrots saying, "Hey kid, go F yourself."
Yeah, that would be.
That is
not
low
good.
key the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. That is...
I had a good giggle. But apparently as well, like, they revel in being laughed at. So it encourages them to swear even more. So because they're all encouraging each other and people are laughing at everything, it's just become this giant thing of like, now it's an issue. Now we have to separate them.
It's just like when you've got kids, isn't it? And like, it's funny. Like the first time they do it, it's a bit funny when you have like a toddler or whatever and they say a swear word and you think that's hilarious.
And they usually say it by accident,
Yeah.
or they'll like say it out of context.
Yeah.
whatever,
and they
you're
have
like,
no concept of what they're saying, and it's funny.
Yeah.
But you've got to like toe the line of like, well, we can't laugh too much because then they're gonna think that it's a funny thing,
joke.
and it's
Then they're going to
performative.
continue doing it, absolutely. Yeah. My niece, when she was about 2 or 3, we used to ask her what a duck says. And she used to say the F word. Because she couldn't say quack.
That makes sense.
It was a lot of fun.
On those lines, my friends Robbie and Kevin, their daughter, she has a very interesting way of saying Millennium Falcon. She used to. She was a very big Star Wars fan from a young age, but Millennium Falcon definitely had a slightly different pronunciation that is not repeatable on this podcast.
Yes, I can imagine. I really like... Obviously, I don't want, children swearing. But, I mean, it's funny. But when kids like know things they shouldn't... Like, I really like the show Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this little drawing that they do to represent Walter White, which is like this Heisenberg drawing. If people know Breaking Bad, they know this drawing.
Yeah.
And I used to have a T-shirt with that on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when my oldest niece was really young, I was wearing that T-shirt around a lot, and then I taught her, like, oh, that's Heisenberg. And she used to point at it, go, Heidenberg, right? And then one day we went into a shopping centre, and that was on a T-shirt, and she ran up to it and went, Jazz, Heisenberg, right? And the person who was in it, like, selling the shirt was horrified. And I was like, oh, no, she doesn't watch it. I don't think they believe me.
Oh, that's so funny. I appreciate that they split them up. I feel like that would have turned to absolute chaos immediately.
Yeah, it's like, all right, they were only in together for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And it just all went to hell very quickly.
It sounds like the movie Madagascar. It's the Penguins of Madagascar,
Oh, yeah,
but for grown-ups.
just saying horrible words. Can you imagine that, though? Like, you go to work, you get these penguins, and one of them's going, hey, you, F you, right? And then you go, oh, fair enough, Gary, whatever the bird's name was, because they're all named Gary. And then you go home, you come back to work the next day, and you walk in, and 5 of them are going, hey, F you. And you're like, oh.
You'd speak to HR, wouldn't you?
would.
To be honest.
Yeah, that's a HR trap, absolutely.
I feel like I'm actually being bullied in my workplace.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like
Gary's saying bad
contemplating.
words about me. Oh my god, Gary from accounting? No, Gary the bird.
I'm just thinking about how that could have spread so fast. Like, I'm just imagining the horror at them, like someone just going like, it's probably not that much of an issue, and then 2 weeks later being like, I have made the world's biggest mistake, when the whole Avery is swearing at you.
Imagine if they used it to their advantage and they used it for like sponsorship. If they like
deal.
taught them how to say like, buy a Coca-Cola. And then 500 birds were like, buy a Coca-Cola.
Well, now that's all I want to see.
That is good marketing.
That is a marketing campaign. You are welcome, Lincolnshire Wildlife Park.
Yeah.
You can have that.
Give me a call.
Yeah, sponsor us. Good for a change podcast at gmail.com.
All right, so now we've had topless gnomes and swearing birds. Holly, is your story any more safe for work?
Absolutely not.
Oh no.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I mean,
I'm sorry to the kids.
out of 10, I'd say mine is more appropriate for work than both of yours, but still, like, I wouldn't Google it on the work computer. So, I don't know if you have seen, but the Yorkshire Museum have what I can only describe as the best Twitter on Twitter. So they've been running curator battles.
Oh, I have seen these.
Yeah, so what they'll say is okay, all of the museums in the world, show us your scariest object or your best cat. But arguably the best category that they have had was in the end of June. They had the best museum bum.
Okay. My God, this whole podcast. Throw it in the bin. This will never air.
No, we're doing it. We're going to air it.
We're going to air it all.
We're just going to warn people at the start. Maybe don't listen with the kids.
I think all these gnomes and statues have been airing it all. Hollie.
Have they ever? So there's been a great selection, and it's been from an array of museums and curators. So the Royal Armouries put up a picture of a suit of armour with a very well-shaped...
Curvaceous, some might say.
Curvaceous, some might say, yeah. The Wallace collection put up a really smooth statue.
I'm so bothered by every single thing in this podcast.
My favourite thing is watching us all try and describe these things in ways that are, like, not offensive.
Yeah.
Which is my favourite thing ever.
One of my absolute favourites that I saw was the Museum of Oxford put up. It looked like a little medieval statue, and its bum was smooth. Like, the whole rest of the statue was like statue texture, but the bum had been rubbed so much
Oh, God.
that it had gone smooth.
Nice.
It was amazing.
I remember I've seen a picture once, and it's like, it's a big medieval scene, and it's a painting, and someone's bent over, and they've got a flower sticking out of their bottom. And I don't know. So I hope that museum, whoever has that piece of artwork in the gallery, contributed that to that's because that's what I would have submitted to the Twitter battle.
I would have just painted my bottom, like, grey.
And been
Be
like,
like, here you go. And they'd be like, oh, no, thank you.
This is interesting, though, because, like, the whole thing about my story was that he was getting in trouble for having this topless gnome in his yard. But, like, we literally do have naked statues everywhere in museums and all that kind of thing.
Well, that's it. It starts to become a question of what is considered art and what isn't.
Which is the ever-long battle of the art world,
well,
I
they
guess.
covered up the statue of David, didn't they?
Yeah, for a long time.
I don't know if that's...
They did do that.
Yeah, they put jeans on him.
Yeah, Levi's.
I think that was an
weirdly.
episode of The Simpsons.
But they had put the leaf on it for a while because
I
it
don't
was...
know if is that the actual statue or was that just the V&A?
No, I'm pretty sure it was the actual statue.
Wow.
There were people that at the time were against nudity and you know, were obviously quite prudish. And it was all about it was that movement at that time in history where they
Covered everyone
is it
up.
Puritans? Were they called the Puritans?
Yeah.
And they were very like
Pure.
So
No
nudity was
parties,
not a good
no
option.
laughing,
Yeah.
no bread,
And no bottoms.
and no bottoms.
goodness.
Absolutely no bottoms. I feel like when you're at a museum, I always have a little giggle. I'm like, it's a butt.
Which is awkward because we do go to museums all the time.
All of the time. And
Sorry, can I ask a question about the I was going to say gnome, it's not a gnome, the statue with the rub butt?
yeah.
All right. Is that just people walking past going, I'm going to rub that? And then it became like a thing that people did? Or was it just like, it's just been rubbed that much that it's gone smooth?
I think that it has just been rubbed.
Because you're not supposed to touch the displays.
No. So I wonder if it was like a good luck.
Yeah, maybe. Let me quickly tell you, right? So, the Museum of Natural History in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I went there we went there the first time, but we won't talk about that holiday. The second time, though, that I went to New York, we were in one of the rooms, and it clearly had a big sign saying, do not touch the display. And because I'm a child, I immediately want to touch the display. If there's a red button that says, do not press this button, I'm pressing the button. We all know I'm going to press it, right? And so I'm just going like, all I want to do is just touch this display. I think it was like a woolly mammoth or something. I can't remember. And there was like...
Jarrod, stop outing yourself.
And there was...
The internet's forever.
And there was this giant, we're in one of the massive atriums. So there's like probably 500 people in this room. And I'm like, I'm going to touch it. I'm just a bink, that's it. And the security guard was like, I am obviously watching you. Like, he could tell. Like, in a room of 500 people, he was on the other side and he was like, death staring me. And I was like, stop looking just so I can touch it. And I didn't get away with it. I didn't get to touch it. And that's one of the greatest regrets in my life.
Well, this has been, once again, quite a visual episode of the podcast. We've talked about a lot of visual elements, and under normal circumstances, we'd post a lot of those references on our Instagram, which you can find at Good for a Change Podcast. Now, we're probably going to have to do some workarounds this week to make that happen. But please, go follow us on there. Go follow us on there, and we'll let you do your own Googling. But be safe. Don't do it on the work.
Yeah, don't do it at work. Well, this has all been bad. I haven't enjoyed any of this. It's upset me, the whole podcast. Let's move on. Hey, Sean.
Yes?
Can you please tell me what's good in your life?
I can.
Thanks.
It's actually... technically, it's from a while ago, but this month it's October at the moment, and this is the month that Hollie and I got married 3 years ago.
You did. I was there.
You were there, and as such, at the moment on my Facebook, there's a lot of memories happening that are really nice to look at. Because we got married in the UK, and all our family and friends came over from Australia and around the world to come to the wedding.
That was me. I was there.
You were.
Same, I was there too.
At this point in the month, my family had come over, and we were spending a lot of time with them exploring London, and we were exploring Edinburgh at the time. I've got all these pictures at the moment that are coming up in my memory of all the fun things we did 3 years ago. And it's really nice to look back at all those things and be like, like that we had that really nice pizza at this restaurant in Edinburgh, and we saw all these cool things with my family, and it was the first time they'd been to London, so or the UK in general. So seeing all those things that were part of our lives at that point in time, it's really special, and it's nice to reflect on that. And it's a really nice build-up of a month, because it wasn't just like the wedding had done, it was this really big month and a half long build up and little posts. So lots of wonderful memories popping up at the moment, which is really special.
It was lovely. It was a lovely wedding.
It was pretty good.
I heard the best man speech was great.
It was. Featured Elmo from Sesame
Yeah, that
Street.
was the best bit, was Elmo.
That was very exciting.
Everything around it was like, ooh, but like...
Yeah, but then Elmo. Do you remember, Hollie, what you said straight afterwards? Because you guys have to make a speech straight after mine. And you picked up the thing and you went, well, this isn't going to be any good because we haven't got Elmo. And I was like, well, wrap it up. Let's all go home.
I also thought, and I don't know why I thought this was hugely misguided. I was like, we're improvisers. We're going to be able to, like, throw together, like, a thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone who helped, blah, blah, blah. Clearly forgetting the fact that I would be highly emotional and just a nightmare.
Yeah.
So that was like, thank you for coming.
Yeah. No, I had my speech written, like, a good 2 months before.
I had other stuff
just
on.
so I could memorize it, so I didn't start. And even then, I actually did forget stuff. Also, the vest from your wedding doesn't fit me anymore. Got a bit fat.
The vest from the wedding doesn't fit me anymore
if
either.
I had my wedding dress here, I doubt I'd be able to get it over a thigh.
So, yeah, life rolls on. But we're fine. We're all good.
Good.
Lockdown joys.
Lockdown joys. Speaking of lockdown joys, what are your lockdown joys, Jarrod? What's good in your life at the moment?
What's good in my life is recently we got to look after my nieces for a couple of days.
Lovely.
Which was lovely. And the youngest one has gotten really into drawing.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
And we all know how much I love a draw. I mean, we all love a draw. But that was really quite exciting. And she was like, I want to draw with you, because she knew that I like to draw. So she had apparently been going on like YouTube Kids, and she'd found something called Arts Hub for Kids, which is this guy who goes through fairly simple drawings, but still not like a stick figure or whatever. They're quite detailed, but still easy to do when you're a 6-year-old. So we sat there for, I'd say, probably 2 hours one day and then 2 hours the next day, and we just drew.
Aww.
So I have a couple of the ones we did here.
Yeah.
This is actually the first one we did. This was a fox.
Oh,
wow.
look.
Oh, that's by you.
Isn't it a cute
Okay.
little fox? That was by... Oh, yeah, these are all by me. My nieces took it their time.
Sean was like, oh my
I
gosh,
was like,
someone call the
wow.
museums.
I know. This was a burger.
Oh, look at that burger.
Oh, look how cute they are.
That's very cute.
Yeah, they were all named Roger.
That makes sense.
Fair enough. Birds are called Gary.
Yeah,
Drawings are called Roger.
absolutely.
Them's the rules.
And this is a cactus.
Oh,
Aww.
that's so fun.
It's so joyous.
He's a happy cactus. But what was really funny about it is like my youngest niece, because there was me and my two nieces doing it, and the 9-year-old was really quite focused on it, and quite intricate and stuff like that. But the 6-year-old who was the one who wanted to do it originally, was just like, all right, I'll stop paying attention, and now I'm just going to do my own thing.
Fair enough.
Which is great, which I'm all for. But like with the hamburger we did, she drew a pickle on its head.
Smart.
With a flag coming out of it. And then like, we'd be halfway through and we turned and she'd finished. And she was just like, oh yeah, I got bored, did my own thing.
Are you ready to hear my biggest confession of my life?
Yep.
Okay, so when I was in year 4, we were drawing Easter cards, and it was an Easter card competition, and the person who drew the best Easter card got it like sent off and printed, and it was like sold probably in the church or something. I don't know. And I was sat next to a boy who was really good at drawing cartoons. And we were like 8, but he was like very good at drawing cartoons. And so I copied him. I know. And then I won the competition.
Right, got her. This has all been a sting. This whole podcast, the whole relationship with Sean's been a sting just to get you. We're undercover cops.
Yeah, but I like exactly copied him, and I don't know how anyone went like, oh, his is much better than hers. She's obviously copied it.
Do you know what I think part of it is? Because I actually found this out because I used to do like the Easter competitions, like you draw the Easter bunny and stuff like that as well. And someone told me once how they pick the winners, and it is that like if a kid is really good at drawing, they're not going to pick that kid because it looks too professional or it looks like someone's helped them, whereas yours looks like a kid copied something they've seen. Which they did, because you're a cheat.
But what was good about that in my life is that, like, I had, like, the basic shapes that I could then work off. Like, I understood how he, like, drew eyes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I get that. And then I could draw eyes like that. Or, like, whatever, like, shape-wise. In my head, I was like, oh, I've drawn that now. I understand, like, how to draw that. And that's why I think, like, those YouTube videos are probably a really good starting point. Because it's, like, you get an idea of like sizing.
So it's so look, I'll give him a quick little plug. It's Arts Hub for Kids. I don't know his name. I'm going to call him Gary or Roger. Grodger. Okay, well, besides copying and stealing other people's work, Hollie, that's copyright infringement. What's good in your life?
I mean, well, speaking of copying and stealing people's work,
goodness me,
we have
John Krasinski.
Yeah, John. We've been watching The Great British Sewing Bee recently, which has been, it's been nice because I've obviously been doing a bit of sewing on the side at the moment, and I've been like practicing sewing on patterns and things. But one, it's very enjoyable because it's basically the Great British Bake Off in design.
With pins and needles.
But with pins and needles instead of flour and eggs.
Yeah. Don't mix the two.
Yeah,
it's not a good result.
But it's been good because obviously it's like fun to watch people not do good at making things. But also there are people who are very good at making things, and I have been stealing techniques off that show left, right, and centre. I mean, I feel like these things that I've stolen are probably actually just things that you're taught when you actually learn to sew, which I wasn't.
No, you're too busy copying people's Easter cards.
Exactly. So you can like put a pin in sideways. So instead of like horizontally, you can put it in like vertically so that it's a straight line, and you can like keep things together.
So visual, this whole thing. And I can see you and I don't understand.
Like just skills, just general sewing skills.
That's better.
Like
that's better.
How to pin things nicely and how to cut
sideways.
things nicely.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, lovely.
It's been good. Also, Joe Lycett's in it, and I stinking love Joe Lycett.
I do love me some Joe Lycett.
We've been watching a bit of his
Hugo Boss.
What's his show called? Got Your Back or something?
Joe Lycett's Got Your Back.
We've been watching a little bit of that lately too, and it does make me laugh.
Yeah.
He's a good egg.
What have you made, Hollie? That's what
I made that dress that I made the other week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I made some pants, trousers for those in the UK.
Just to make sure there's no confusion there.
And I made Sean's sister a playsuit, a jumpsuit.
Very nice.
Yeah, but it's been good. It's been nice. It's been nice to kind of pick up a skill.
and pleasant viewing at the same time. I'm surprised, but I quite enjoy Sewing Bee as well. It's just pleasant viewing.
And so we come out listening to some lovely music after what can only be described as the most horrifying podcast I've ever been a part of.
Chaos and mayhem.
It was bad. It was bad.
It wasn't bad.
It was
It's
good.
just-
It was bad.
It's all good content. It's just slightly different to what we normally deliver.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay because I think as far as I can tell, our audience demographics are generally in the above 18 category. So I think we're going to be fine.
Great, because as of next week, I'm going to start swearing up a storm. I'm not. It's
I'm
going to be
going to
called
say
F for a change.
poo-poo 3 times.
Well,
Keep
don't
it-
you dare.
You know what? You've promised that now. I expect you to say poo-poo 3 times in the next episode.
I will.
Okay, great. Well, I was going to say well until then, but let's not get to the end yet, because Hollie, people need to give us some stars.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so let's not forget the policy. Sean
Yes.
looked excited that we had forgotten.
I thought we were going to get through without mentioning this policy.
The
No,
policy is important, Sean, and
Yeah.
that's why we talk about it.
But I always forget the policy, because I'm not a very smart boy.
You're not, bless you.
I'm not. I can lift heavy things. Hollie, what's the policy?
The policy is you have to give us 5 stars. If you're going to give us a star review, it is a 5-star only policy.
Yes, so please don't forget. I do. I know it's easy to forget. Hollie, if you can send me a copy of the policy, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll post it through to you.
Thanks. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
You can leave us a review on the Apple Podcast Store, where you can also subscribe to us. You can subscribe to us on Spotify, and actually all the major podcasting providers. We should be on all of them, I'm pretty sure. And if you want to follow us and our visual escapades, you can jump onto Instagram.com and look for Good for a Change podcast. I can't promise you that all of this week's content is going to be on there. We'll find some workarounds.
I can. I can personally promise every single thing will be on there uncensored.
Just as a side note, who uses Instagram.com and not just the Instagram app?
I don't know.
Who's using Instagram on their computer?
Not sure.
I don't know.
Mayhem.
But they're wrong.
I'm just covering the demographics, Holly.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
covering the demographics. You can also join our Facebook group, which is Good for a Change. We've got the banana in the logo. And we share good news with people from all over the world. And you can contribute your own stories there too. Who knows? They might even end up on a future episode of the show.
Well, until then, thank you very much, Hollie.
Thank you, Jarrod.
Thank you very much, Sean.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Jarrod. You're welcome.
Until next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.